LoreWarrior Online. The Great Wyrm. Overview. When General Kerensky left the Inner Sphere in 2784, he took complete copies of the Star League's data cores, which included design specifications on every piece of military hardware ever proposed to the SLDF for production. By the 29th century, clan warriors all over the Kerensky cluster were clamouring for newer, more capable battle mech designs. Clan Mongoose scientists, interested in cutting development time, looked to the Star League memory cores in hopes of finding a design that would suit their need. What they found was a battle mech submitted for trial in 2753, one that has become near ubiquitous in the Inner Sphere: the Dragon. The Mongoose scientists converted the design into the Great Wyrm, and the results were astounding. Production models entered service just over a year after the design process began. Equally interesting is the physical profile that the Great Wyrm displays, its resemblance to the Dragon being uncanny, sometimes fooling even Comstar's computer ID systems. Capabilities. Though Mongoose scientists heavily modified the chassis they selected, making the Great Wyrm 15 tons lighter than the Dragon, they did manage to keep the same speed profile while increasing the firepower. Their only sacrifice was in overall armor protection. The Great Wyrm mounts only 30% less armor than the parent design, a sacrifice that's deemed acceptable by designers. The Great Wyrm's first combat trial came in 2844, when Star Adder assaulted the Mongoose colony on Tokasha, where a new star of mechs had been stationed as part of the garrisoning trinary. The Adder Quasar Keshik made short work of the defenders, but at heavy cost. The Great Wyrms were the last to fall, for they used their mobility to stay out of their opponent's weapon ranges while maintaining a barrage with their autocannons. The Great Wyrm performed even better than expected, and Mongoose scientists increased production to capacity, churning out scores of the units to swell their ranks, and hundreds more to trade with other clans. Cloud Cobra even retooled two of their own production lines to build the mech, and both ran for near a decade. The remainder of the Golden Century was not so kind, though, to the Great Wyrm. With the introduction of the Omnimech, many clans quickly relegated the Wyrm to Salama units. Main production would halt by 2869 after the Smoke Jaguars absorbed Mongoose. Baroque would make several limited production runs in 2871 and 2872 after they captured a former Mongoose plant on Foster, but Clan Firemandrel subsequently seized and retooled that facility, and since then, no new Great Wyrms have been built. Deployment. Every clan includes some of these mechs in their second-line clusters. Clans Cloud Cobra, Coyote, Firemandrel, Steel Viper, and Star Adder, through their absorption of Baroque, field the most, approximately half a dozen stars each. The remaining clans field no more than 1 to 2 stars of these. Yeah, now they mention it does look like the Dragon. Kind of, sort of, but it's similar enough. But then again, I think I only made that distinction based on it telling me rather than me noticing immediately, but let me know what you think in the comments on that one. So it's a 45-tonner, its chassis is the Type 56-45C modified, its power plant is the RFUM 225 standard, giving it a cruise speed of 54 and a max speed of 86. Its jump jets are non-existent, its armour is Serplate Mod 2F, it's armed with a single Mark 44 LRM-10 launcher, 2 Series GAA-22 rapid-fire cannon, 2 Series Mark 1-3 extended-range medium lasers, and 2 Series 1 Mark 2A extended-range small lasers. It's manufactured on the Kudahi assembly plant Delta on Cersei. Its communication system is the Block 7 Tracon, and its targeting and tracking system is the TR-TTS-10 Mark 1. Overall, stats-wise, it's a 5 and 8 movement vehicle with 10 double heatsinks for 20 overall. It has 7 armor on the head, 16 on the CT with 5 on the rear, 12 on the side torsos with 4 on the rear, 10 on the arms, and 16 on the legs. So it has 2 Ultra AC2s in the right arm, with 45 shots split between them, the LRM-10 in the CT with 12 rounds of fire, so a single ton of ammo there. It has an ER medium in the right torso with an ER small, and then an ER medium and ER small in the left torso. So a pretty decent spread, and then it's got a spare arm for punching. Armor-wise, yeah, it's a bit rough, means it can probably get penned quite quickly, and 8 isn't a bad speed, but it's also not the best for a mech that probably needs to stay out of the line of fire as much as possible. Still, it can reach out and touch. The Ultra 2 and the LRM-10 do at least mean that it can sit back and drop enough shells and missiles to soften a target up for heavier lance mates, or star mates in this case. And then the medium and the small lasers mean that when it does get to close-up fighting, or if it can get to a position where it can get to a flank or a rear of a mech, it means that those lasers will be able to carve up some armor or do some internal damage. Overall, not bad. Don't dislike the mech. It's a nice compromise of firepower and speed, as it says, with relatively limited armor. That said though, it can still take a few hits before you start worrying about going internal. The arms are probably the most worrying with only 10 points of armor, but even then, it's alright. It's a couple of medium lasers, and depending on the spread, with the way the dies roll, you never know whether you're going to get a horrible shot where it just keeps hitting the same location or it just spreads across. That's the fun. Yeah, I don't mind it though. Art's pretty decent. Again, I wouldn't have really immediately read Dragon from the art, but still, it's unique enough. I'd certainly find a way to use this kind of mech if I was running a clan sort of campaign or fighting against the clans. You could definitely see these things turning up in the Inner Sphere as part of garrison forces and the such. Although, which clans were said to have had the most of them? None of the ones that had... Yeah, none of the ones that turned... Oh, Steel Viper, I suppose, might have brought a bunch of theirs with them. And then, yeah, I mean, all the other clans, it says 2 stars. So yeah, very, very small numbers of these things would have turned up with the invading clans. But you could still say that 1 or 2 of them were found, salvaged, traded by Diamond Shark, that kind of thing. Again, it's one of those where you could still use this, and I think there's some fun narrative. I like the idea of the background of it being a mech that was built from the Dragon template, so that's kind of cool. And yeah, it's also one of those mechs that if you want to use it as an opponent, it's not going to cause too much damage to the players, but it's got options to harass them and make it, enough of a target for players to want to go after. And then when they do hit it, there's a good chance they're going to pen in a couple of rounds of fire and, feel like they're actually wearing down the target. So that's cool. Yeah, decent overall. I like it. Yeah, it's another one that's just like the Corvus. Good background writing. So, yeah, that's the Great Wyrm. So, yeah, as always, thanks for listening, and I will catch you all on the next one. Until then, have a good one. Bye-bye.